ever marveled at a work of art and pondered the history behind it? If you were to look at Pysanky art, it would capture your attention, even more so if you truly understood it. These beautiful eggs have undergone different changes, and they carry a valuable message, but you must understand how to decipher it, and maybe even ponder on what story they're really trying to tell. So let's delve into this a little more. Knowing the history of the Ukrainians helps us to understand this remarkable art. It offers not only greater insight to their wonderful culture, but also a newfound appreciation for Pysanky art form. The message that each Pysanky delivers strives to uplift, to unify, and even to offer hope on a very personal level. The colors, the motifs, and the symbols now speak to the observer. Or perhaps you're even lucky enough to receive one as a gift. As we take a peek at this art, it will become clear to you why this wonderful artwork has had such devotion and been carried forward from one generation to another. The history of the Ukrainians has been rough. They were pagans at first, and then they became Christians in 988 AD. Then the Russians took over their country and tried to snuff out any form of religion. The Ukrainians were quite brilliant in my mind because they resorted to putting their beliefs forward by putting them on their eggs. So we would be wise to take a look a little more at some of the symbols and what it means. There is a great religious meaning behind these eggs. And a teacher, Helena Mudry, taught that Pysanky were decorated as an offering to the pagan gods in the beginning, especially the sun god, who was Dasbov, and considered to be the giver of life. That practice, as I said before, continued until they became Christians. And then people believed that the eggs for Pysanky should be fertilized, as they brought forth great wealth and fertility to each family. As the symbols began to appear on these eggs, and revisiting that the Soviet regime came along, they tried to do away with them. But these eggs are so tied into their culture that they were sought after and viewed as warding off evil spirits. The eggs encouraged marriage and fertility. They ensured a good harvest, or milk or honey production, and they protected the household from disaster. So with this strong belief system in place, you can see just why this beautiful artwork was carried forward. Each egg carries a message. Now, if you were going to try to send a message, you'd start by choosing your colors. When you have the color yellow, it stands for wealth and prosperity. When you keep the white very apparent on the egg, it means purity. When you add the color green, you're representing growth. And when you put on orange, it indicates power and endurance. The orange is a very popular color in that culture. And as I've come to study the Ukrainian culture, I've come to understand why orange was such a forefront color. They have endured much, and I can see that they have presented this in their designs with much orange on their eggs. Now, red encompasses love and life and happiness. Black surprised me because it represents reverence. And brown made sense as Mother Earth. Purple stood for some strong mental strength, and blue indicated good health. So once you pick your colors and you put these on the eggs, this is the message that you're sending to each recipient. You're telling them that you wish this for them. Now let's talk about the symbols for just a little bit. Understanding the symbols enables the viewer to know more of what the artist is trying to convey to them. Earlier I said that each egg carries a message, and basically there's 3 categories that these are divided into. There's a geometric type, there's the plant and the animal, and the motifs of all these categories are usually combined into one design. Now, if you're putting shapes like stars and circles and dots and triangles, or lines, or wavy, or zigzag, or spirals, or ladder, you might even put crosses, standing crosses, like on the churches. For plants, you might choose to put a pine tree, or a leaf, or a willow, or grapes, or fruit. All of these play a role and have a certain symbol. I will touch on just a couple of them for you. If you were going to put on leaves, that would symbolize life and growth. If you were to put down some flowers, you're indicating beauty and humility. The pine needles represents youth and strength and your health. Grapes is the growth of the Christian church. Wheat represents their precious harvest and, of course, their health. And if you put on birds, well, you might be wishing somebody great fertility and the fulfillment of all their wishes. Butterflies are a symbol of the resurrection, and I thought that was simply beautiful because, as we all know, butterflies undergo a transformation, and so I like the symbol in this beautiful culture of that. Now, you might wonder why I was drawn to this, and so let me tell you why. I have a grandfather that I never met, but he was born in the Ukraine, he immigrated to Canada, and he had 17 children. And one of those children was a sweet aunt. Auntie Dorothy decided that I should learn this beautiful art. And she took me under her wing, and she afforded me a front seat into this culture. As I've continued to create my own Pysanky for 40 years now, I've become more familiar with the beautiful traditions. I've studied both the written word and practiced the art form numerous times. I've shared it with family and neighbors and friends. And everyone who is introduced to this beautiful art finds it to be very engrossing. We have worked on Pysanky eggs till 3 in the morning because they're quite addictive once you get started. It is important to understand the culture because when you understand other cultures, it can lead to insights into your own life. Traditions that hold for centuries offer many lessons when diligently sought after and understood. Every culture has beauty, and the Ukrainian culture is so full of beauty, both in sight and in meaning. When you take an egg from white and you bring it through the colors and the symbols and the motifs, and then at the very end, you hold it up to a candle and you slowly melt off all the wax, and the beauty comes out from this dark egg into the brilliant colors. It is quite revealing. And it is the most exciting step of Pysanky art. Now that you know a little bit of the history and you've understood a little more of their culture and why they put forth everything onto these eggs, it was their way of showing their belief system. The message that each one delivered was their testimony in a way, and it allowed them to go forward with faith and to live their lives. The next time that you see or hear a Pysanky, I think you will find yourself a little more immersed because now you understand just a little bit more of this beautiful art. And you might even lean in and try to decipher the art. Look at the motifs, view the colors, and see just what was being represented here. When you immerse yourself in this art and you study it, you can't help but have a whole new appreciation for that wonderful culture that has been carried forward on the art of Pysanky. You will share into the sorry, you will now share in the joy of Pysanky art. Perhaps one day you will even create your own.